All right. Oh, welcome to an early stream, I guess. Actually, you know what? I can't even call this early. This is a little out of character for me, right? Lately I haven't been doing my weekday streams. Um, so I'm happy to be here doing this stream with you guys. I'm trying to figure out a couple of things, but first of all, welcome Monday night. You know, I normally would stream tomorrow night. Well, no, I can't even say normally. It's been a while since I've done. Um, but usually I will stream. Usually, normally, whatever. I'll stop judging myself here. But Tuesdays would be when I would do it. But tomorrow's Christmas Eve. I want to be able to spend that with my family. So we're here tonight. I am. Um, I debated playing a game tonight, to be honest. I'm starting to get a little bit of a cold, I think, maybe. I hope not. But just um, we'll see how things go. I'm not totally recovered from yelling and cheering Monday. So um, I'm trying to figure out. So we have this weird issue here. Hey, Monday stream hype, exactly. Um, there's there's a couple of things I want to figure out. I got distracted by the Monday stream hype, but um, so one thing I do want to figure out is this um, external e-signal thing. And I traced it, and it comes through with grid from my grid computed feature. Um, so if I go here to like grids and I take out the grid computed, you'll see that the error goes away here, and then it goes away here, right? Obviously, my signal store is now broken because I don't have the computed stuff that I expect. But that's kind of how I tracked it down, right? So I was able to trace it, and it's definitely coming through grid computed. Everything else seems to behave. So I'm trying to figure out what is special about grid computed. Um, so I'm just curious about a few things. One of the first things I did is I just, tried removing the type from it. Um, and that didn't make it go away, maybe. I don't know. No, it's still complaining about that. So it's not that type. So if I like comment out this computed, interesting. So it's in this method. Um, well, actually, before I say that, let's try commenting out this one. Interesting. So the reason we're getting this issue is I've got hmm. I've got two computeds here, but interesting. Let's just see if it really is the fact that I've got two computeds. Let's just try commenting this out and see what happens. No. So which one of these is it? So regions brings it back. Columns does not. Rows does not either. So it's very much this calculation right here. And state.regions is a computed like the rotated grid. So interesting. I'm curious if I change this and just return grid here. Does that, we still get the issue. Right. Yeah, we're still getting that theta signal. What if instead of that, I just do return that. Do we still get it? It's still using a signal here. So it doesn't look like it's this method. And the interesting thing, so state.region, the state.rotated grid why is this one green and this one orange and this one orange? So we're pulling the region out of the cell state and we're mapping it over. So this computed returns a cell state that this one returns the same thing. Computation looks the same. I'm not passing any options. That's returning signal cell state. That's returning signal cell state. And that's returning signal cell state. But for whatever reason, it's this last one. And so I have one other thought. Like, what if I do that? Well, actually, it wouldn't matter. All I need to do is instead of doing that, if I comment out these two, it definitely doesn't go away. So I was curious about the number there. And this is returning selected. I mean, it's very much something about, oh, oh. It's this. Why map them if you're just returning the identity? That's a good question, right? That's a really good question, but I can see what the problem is. And maybe we need to pull off the identity here, because that's a really good question. Um, oh, it helps if I only pull off the map and not everything else. Yeah, because I'm not even sure. It must have been copied code, but I can tell what the problem is. These are named the same. Um, so one thing I could do to fix this is probably that. Um, yeah, there we go. So because this region's was named the same as this region's, what was what was happening? And we were basically trying to redeclare it in another computer. No, I didn't hear that Signal Store 19 is the official recommendation for local state. Yeah, variable shadowing, but it's a little bit more insidious with Signal Store. Um, because with Signal Store, what I'm trying to do is redeclare regions when it's already been declared. And it leads to weird cases, and you'll get weird errors saying that, hey, you're trying to override something that you can't override in Signal Store because a lot of stuff that you do in Signal Store is proxies. So overriding doesn't make sense. Um, that was my problem. Yeah, that cleared that issue up right away. Um, the new blog post is good. Do you have a link to that blog post? I'd love to read it. Oh look, I haven't even started up my browser yet. Looks like I need updates, but um, well, and I'm not sure that like this is goofy. Um, like this would have been bad design regardless, right? Me naming this and this the same thing, um, even in a compositional place, right? Like what does that mean? Um, am I trying to override it? Am I trying to extend it? What am I doing? Um, it's SEO gets buried. Yeah, it does. Um, the other the other thing that I saw recently that was fascinating was Brandon Roberts tweeted um, at the Angular team and said, "Hey, it would be really cool, um, if we could just spin up the compiler, and that way we could use whatever build, RS pack, Webpack, whatever we wanted." Um, and okay, I like that color and that theme. Um, tend to like that one. Why are you making me do this? In your last browser, I don't want to import any data. Choose a search engine. I'll do Google. Oh wow, that's bright. Sorry guys. I'm not sure why it was making me go through all that. And I've got some weirdness going on with my windowing right now. I'm noticing. Um, I You sent me a DM. Okay, let me take a look at my DMs. Awesome. Thank you for that. Um, Okay, I don't want that. Why are you? Just grab the link. Okay. I don't want to sign in, guys. Not right now. I don't think I have a DevTo account. NGRX signal features, action signals and more. So they did add the props, which we talked about. Yeah, and let's also turn this on. There we go. Makes things a little bit easier for people who are watching this in the dark. So we did talk a little bit about props yesterday, and the upgrade automatically did this for us, which is nice. Oh, that's cool. So you can use props to, that's really cool. I wondered why they'd done it, and I like this. This is good. But basically, we're able to add observables to our signal stores, which is one of the things that I've struggled with sometimes, because we do have one form of signals in the form of RX methods, right? But sometimes you just need a signal. And yeah, in DI easiness, I wonder if I can make a signal store feature that just makes everything in observable automatically. You probably could, to be honest. If you use some of the meta reflection libraries, well, and you may not even have to do that. If your signal store used proxies and returned something from with props that used proxies, and so when they tried to access a certain feature as a signal, then your proxy could kick in and or as an observable, your proxy could kick in and return that observable. So you wouldn't even have to create the observables until they tried to use them, right? And that's the crazy power of signal store. Hit a wall and feel pain. Yeah. Reflection can be, I mean, in most languages, reflection can be frustrating, right? But I really think you may not even need to use proxy or reflection. You can use proxy, right? Because your proxy could return an object, because we really aren't, like, I don't think props is doing the deep signal magic that a lot of other things do. And maybe that's something we could take a look at. Maybe that might be something fun to do, like a pre-New Year's stream or something. All your dependencies in a single place. Oh, this is the DI stuff you were talking about, right, Michael? That's really cool. I love this idea. Whoever came up with this idea was thinking about the DX a lot. This is really good. We may refactor some of our stuff to kind of use this idea. Integrates together with new Angular signals features, including resource and linked signal. So yeah, this was something that I know people were asking about, is like, how can you make a signal store work with resource? Well, just add it as a prop. That's really cool. Very cool. And you've got an internal also. That's very cool. Let us take to V19 earlier than usually. Normally yeah. No, props is really cool, and yeah, that's a really good. That's like that shows signs of you're thinking deeply about the project and stuff. And same thing with linked signals. Um, this is very cool. Um, yeah, and Marco's a genius. Like I love Marco. He's been doing some amazing things. And props is huge. Signal method utility function, the Rx method utility function. Yeah, signal method is a factory function to process side effects on signals or static values. So Rx method, did they change Rx method so that it now only works, no, RxJS to signals. I like the idea of signal method. We've been using Rx method because Rx method was handling signals, but this makes it more explicit that, hey, we only accept signals. And it offers 3 distinct advantages or effects. Log double number. The input arguments can be a static value, not just a signal. The processor function be called multiple times with different inputs. Yeah. No injection context required. That's a big benefit, right? And this is something that I've started doing in my own code, and I've encouraged others to do. Notice here, we're not in a signal store or anything like that. We're just using the signal method. We use Rx methods all the time like this. It's very beneficial. HMR is funky right now, even for the stable one. Yeah, the hot module reload probably is. Method will probably make extending the NGRX toolkits with data service a lot easier to add a pair. That's actually a good thought. And this is another big one, right? That with signal method, it is like an effect, but any signals you use inside of it aren't tracked. Just the signal that's passed to it is. That's a big deal. This one I'm really excited about. I actually think we're going to run into this when we test out the Sudoku game. I think we're going to run into some mutation checks, and I'm looking forward to that. The store now supports dispatching action on signal. That's really cool. NGRX signals the new default. NGRX signals is the ground up approach to managing state reactively and is opt-in for ArcGIS usage. Also has other utilities for working with Angular signals in a structured way that helps developers scale up. NGRX signals is now the recommended local state management library to integrate into your Angular applications. For new applications, start with NGRX Signal Store. For existing applications, consider migrating to the new signals package, which we've been doing. It's not trivial to do that. So that is one thing to do. But so NGRX is now recommending signals as their default package. That's really cool. Ever since NGRX signals came out, I've just been blown away by how powerful it is and just how easy it is to use. So the usage of Signal Store outside of a store is quite interesting. Well, and there's other pieces to Signal Store, right? That so you don't have to go all the way to a Signal Store. You could stop at a Signal State, right? And Signal Store is built on top of Signal States, but you could build like just a simple Signal State if you don't need all of the functionality of the store, which is another really cool piece. Like I love that signal store is just composed from smaller pieces, right? So, the deep computed um, will create a deep signal function for you, which is really cool. Yeah. Yeah. Rainer is amazing, and I just lost my mouse. That's fun. Let's see if it's a battery issue. Um, I am trying to plug my mouse into the USB stuff here. See if that fixes it. That does fix it. Battery issue. No problem. We're good. Um, Rainer is incredibly smart. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so all of those guys over at Angular Architects, like if you ever get a chance to talk to Rainer or Michael, um, they're both very, very smart people. And they work with the Angular architects. And of course, everybody knows that Manfred is incredibly smart, and just doing amazing things for the Angular community. They're an amazing group of people. And I always look forward to talking to them. Um, and at the last NGConf, I was able to talk to the three of them together. I always enjoy it. I always learn something. I highly recommend it. Very friendly people. If you ever get a chance, if you ever see Michael, um, or Rainer or Manfred, just walk up and say hi. They're very friendly, um, and just I've always enjoyed talking to them. But this one's really cool. I like Deep Computed. I hadn't seen this one before, but it looks like we can create a Deep Computed just based off of an object that we give it, which is awesome. Um, a lot of really cool things that NGRX Signals is bringing to the table. Um, I'm really excited that I tracked this issue down. Um, Now I know what to look for at work, along with that. So that's exciting to me. I want to get this committed. Um, and fixed um, uh, duplicated property name. And this is so there's always going to be growing pains when when you learn new systems, right? Signal store is very compositional and built from the ground up to be compositional. Um, Normally, right, if I had duplicated regions within this with computed, it would have caught it. But the fact that I had it here and here, the error was weird, right? Because it's telling me that I was using theta signal, which is a weird error. And obviously I didn't understand it, right? Because it took forever. And it took, 20 or 30 minutes of me just looking before, tracking down where it was. And then, you know, there's a lot to be said for the bisect style of debugging, right? So the way that I tracked this down is I was basically bisecting the code. I just took and I would comment out everything. Oh, did the error go away? It went away. Okay, now let's uncomment the top half. Is the error still there? Nope, it's gone. So it's in the bottom half. Comment out the bottom half, and comment out the top half of the bottom half. Is the error still there? Yep, it showed up. Okay, uncomment the bottom half, and comment out the top half again, and then comment out uncomment half of the top half that I just commented. Does the error show up? Nope. Okay, it's in the bottom half, right? So I'm using a bisect, a binary search, and that's the approach that I took here too, right? Is comment out the types, comment out with computed, comment out the second one. Okay, it goes away. Um, so we know it has to be here, and then comment everything out and bring them back, and we were able to zero in on what it was. Um, so debugging strategies like that, very helpful, very useful. And they'll make you seem smarter than you actually are, right? Like a lot of a lot of appearing to be smart, at least in my experience, is just applying good strategies at the right time, right? I figure I'm a fairly average person, but I've learned a couple of tricks to apply things, right? Yeah, I think an AI could. Um, and there, like, one of the tools that I love to use um, is that NCU tool, right? Um, npm check updates. Um, and I'm working on my laptop right now. There's just some weird stuff going on with it that I need to figure out. But one thing we can take a look at, right, is NCU dash dash help. Um, NCU has this cool function called Doctor. And what Doctor does is it iteratively installs and runs tests to identify breaking upgrades. Um, and so it's like, okay, that seems interesting, but what does that do, right? So help Doctor. Um, so it runs the test before upgrading. It installs, it runs the tests, and then it reruns the tests, right? And then if tests fail, then it starts doing um, a bisect, right? So it it iteratively installs upgrades and runs your project's tests, and it will identify breaking upgrades and revert them for you, right? This is a tool I want to learn how to use better, um, because I mean, with dash dash doctor and dash u or dash du, you're going to get, it's going to upgrade everything. If tests pass, you're good. If they don't pass, then it restores the package file. Oh, it doesn't do it iteratively. It does it for each dependency. So each dependency will all install the upgrade and run the tests, and then it will tell you which ones. This NCU tool is probably one of my absolute favorite tools. And it's one that I don't see very often. But there's so much power in here. I mean, so many other things. Like, I love the graphical update and stuff that it gives you, but there's so many other things that you can do. So you can cache packages, right? You can look at like how many concurrents you can control concurrency of your HTTP upgrades, right? Control the working directory that it goes into. If you're working with like something like Lerna or other workspaces like that, it also has support for like deep. And you can control whether it adds or doesn't use deprecated packages. And I mean, just so much stuff in here. And you can even feed it like JSON, right? Or you can tell it to output JSON, or you can, I mean, just so many things that you can do. And even tell it, reject certain versions or things like that. Just so many things. And if you get deeper, you can even pass it your own functions that it will. Signal store is a recommended default for local, but I don't think global yet. Okay, that makes sense. And there are some fundamental differences between RX, like NGRX, and Signal Store. But I will also contend that most projects don't need NGRX. And that's why I believe so many people had such a hard time with NGRX is when it first came out, everybody's like, "Oh, this is a magic bullet, blah blah blah," right? We're finally getting something from React, and everybody added NGRX to their programs, and then they realized how difficult NGRX is, how difficult it is to get right, and suddenly everybody hated NGRX. And man, some of the stories, if you ever get a chance to talk to Brandon or Mike, maybe don't bring it up right away, right? Um, but they have some pretty crazy stories about what it was like to be NGRX maintainers in the days when, like, even ngconf, I was sitting in the audience during the talk. So Brandon and Mike had given amazing talks. I would loved their talks on NGRX. We were on the last day of ngconf, and there was a talk given. It just tore them to pieces. And it was one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever been a part of. Yeah, the amount of people burned by everyone using NGRX where it was overkill makes any state conversation real hard to be civil. And that's the biggest problem, right? Um, People overused NGRX and misused NGRX and created a mess. And so the fact that NGRX signals carries the NGRX name often makes it difficult to even start the discussion. Um, so when I introduced Signal Store at Bill, there were engineers who were like, "We don't use NGRX here." It's like, "Well, this isn't NGRX. This is different." And we had to go through and explain why it was different, what benefit it was going to have, and things like that, right? But yeah, I agree with you, Michael. It leads to uncomfortable situations where it's just very difficult to talk about things. Right, exactly. And all it takes is NGRX. NGRX um, refers to the refers more to the organization than it like I should be calling it NGRX store to identify disambiguate it from the NGRX name, right? Uh, but back in the day, NGRX store was the only thing that they released, so everybody called it NGRX, right? Um, And so now everybody's mind is trained that when you say NGRX, we think about NGRX store, right? Um, but that's only a small part of their offering anymore, right? If you go take a look at their site, right? Um, NGRX store is a small part, but what we call NGRX, when a lot of people think of NGRX, they're typically thinking of store and effects. Sometimes, router store shows up and sometimes entity, but these are typically when people say NGRX, this is typically what they're talking about. But there's also signals, and signals is a very powerful one, right? And component store. And then their operators are really cool too. I use their operators all the time, like concat latest from solve some issues that you'll have if you just use concat. Um, um, Tap response forces you to have an error handler so you don't kill your RxJS pipe, your RxJS pipelines. Map response is the same way. These are three very powerful operators that used to be a part, I believe, of Component Store, but they were then taken out because they were used everywhere else. You've used NGXS, Joker. NGXS, so NGXS is a good library, right? And it's another Redux style library, but it has it took a different way to handle state and added, it simplified it. The NGXS guys are really cool. I've enjoyed talking to them. I haven't used NGXS, and that's a failing on my part because it's very interesting to me, but it was a response to NGXS was really a response to the difficulty of NGRX, right? Because NGRX was overkill. NGXS and some of the other ones are kind of a simplification of NGRX, but applying the ideas of redux patterns, right? Um, yeah, yeah. NGXS are an amazing group of people. The other one that doesn't get a lot of attention, but is also very cool is RX Angular. Um, and I did a stream on RX Angular. And RX Angular has a whole bunch of stuff in it. But it is another state management solution. I mean, you got Eunice right here, right, talking about it. Um, and oh, this is new. This is cool. Man, I'm getting nerd sniped here, but they've got all these other cool things in here, like you can unpatch things in your template so that you can detach functions in your template from change detection, which is crazy, right? This unpatch. And RX push and RX 4, these are all highly optimized and use some of the code from RX unpatch. But the fact that you could add an unpatch to maybe a click handler and it no longer does zone detection. Like RX Angular was the place where I did zoneless first, because it made it so easy to be zoneless. And this is maintained by Michael Hladky and a bunch of really, really intelligent people. Um, you've probably seen Hladky speaking on performance in Angular and things like that. But RX Angular is another amazing state management library, but it also includes CDKs, templates, and stuff that allow you to do some incredible stuff with Angular. And that's the thing that I love about just software development in general is I saw this tweet today and it made me smile, but um, most tech advancement is somebody saying you can't do that, a smart person saying that's not possible, and another smart person getting angry and proving them wrong, right? I really liked that comment, and that's the way I look at like NGRX and NGXS and RX Angular. They're three groups of very intelligent people that are taking state management in different ways. And they're thinking about state management at a deeper level. And here's the other thing, right? We've got state adapt also, um, which is another really cool state management library. And then the one that we're working towards here is xState, right? Um, and xState is another incredible state management library. And like that's the thing that I love about the current state of development. We've got so many choices in how we want to go forward. Yeah, I haven't seen Theo's video, but xState is incredible. And the maintainer, David K. Piano is how he goes on Twitch. Um, Very smart guy. Um, but I just love how he approaches the community, right? Like state machines solve this better than X, Y, or Z, and he leaves it at that. He's not out there, throwing shade at, you don't need this, you don't need that. He's just saying, hey, if you have this problem, state machines solve it, and xState is a really easy way to do state machines, right? So a lot of really great people out there. And Joker, you know, you brought up a good point, right? You haven't used NGRX, you've used NGXS. You guys are thinking about state, and you're thinking about what's best for your team, and I think that that's the important part, right? Um, I get hyped on NGRX Signal Store, right? It's something that I absolutely love and enjoy. I get very hyped on xState. It's something that I really want to share with you guys. Um, but when it comes down to it, I'm a streamer and I do things for entertainment. I do things to entertain myself. I do things to entertain you, right? I try to give good advice, but the best advice that I can give you is do what your team is most comfortable with. Um, focus on that. That's going to make you way, way, way more productive than any advice I'm going to give you, right? Because you guys are going to be comfortable reading the code. You guys are going to be comfortable writing the code. You're going to be comfortable maintaining the code. So yeah, NGRX Signal Store is really cool. Yeah. Signal subject in a service is also legit. Yeah, absolutely. And that's like the absolute simplest way to start. And in the past, creating services that were reactive and easy to use in Angular was not an easy undertaking. But if you didn't want to add any libraries, you could absolutely just go in and create a service that had subjects, that had just had signals in it, and that's going to be reactive. You're not going to have the memory leaks that you would have if you tried to do it with RxJS. And it's not because RxJS leaks memories. It's because the way we typically handle RxJS, we leak memory, right? And so signals don't suffer from that problem because they automatically watch for subscribers and stuff like that. Whereas with RxJS, the subscription and unsubscription, right? The observers, they handle the cleanup, right? Whereas with signals handles a cleanup when there are no more observers. So some distinctions there, but that distinction is important because it makes it easier to not leak memory, right? I think I buried Joker's comment. No, his comment's still there. Oh, you're saying on the screen. Yeah. Never mind. Yeah, I'm looking at my chat, but yeah, on the screen it did get buried. But that, you know, my chat is nowhere near as fast as a lot of other streamers. So, it was there for a good amount of time. Anyway, let's get back to it, right? So we fixed up this bug that was bugging me for a long time, and that I've actually encountered at work, and now I know the cause for it, and so now I can figure it, I can solve it at work, and that's some of the stuff that I like to do in streams. Is I've got an issue at work. I can't use work code on stream, but I can generate something that's similar, maybe not in the same industry, but some example that will allow me to think through the problem that I'm having at work. And I can do it with eyes and ears of a bunch of other people who can give me ideas, right? So, sometimes some of the stuff I'm doing is just me experimenting, trying to solve issues. I actually ran into this at work. Exactly, right? A lot of the stuff we do at work is not any different than the stuff we do at home and for ourselves and all of that stuff. Anyway, let's get back to, I really want to get through these tests. And right now, the biggest issue I have is this grid store. And we've got, it looks like a couple of issues. So the cell value changed is no longer available, so we'll have to see what those are about. But there's also this no cell to focus and no cell selected. So we'll need to see what happened to those two. But let's get into the grid store tests. So here's the grid store, and let's pull up our tests for it. So grid store tests. And I'm hyper aware of my S's right now, and I don't know why, and it's really bugging me. Like, one of the things, and anytime you get around content creators or speakers or things like that, Um, oh, now I'm hyper aware of my because I mentioned speakers. But anytime you get a group of us together and we start talking about just the craft of, speaking publicly, the craft of creating content, the craft of writing and things like that, you will see just how self-critical and hyper aware we are. And people talk about like, how people say S's, and, our accents and things like that. I live in Utah. So I have some Utah isms to the way I speak, right? In Utah, we don't say mountain, we say mountain, right? And there's just some things like that where we cut out sounds, we soften sounds and things like that. Um, I don't know. There are other Utah isms I'm sure that you guys hear me say all the time. And just pronunciation and things like that come out too. Um, could I share the code I have? Which code would you like me to share, Joker? Um, because um, if you're in both Twitch and YouTube, if you just do exclamation point repo, it's going to point you to the repository. That is horribly done. If you take the second part of that, I don't know. One thing to be aware of is that we're still on the September 8th branch. So everything I'm doing right now is still on that branch. Typically, I like to merge that branch back in. But I don't want to merge a broken branch into the main repo because I don't want people to get broken code. If they go download the repo, I want them to have working code. So this branch has been alive since September 8th when we started converting from component store to signal store. Yeah, you and within my GitHub, so anything we do on stream, I will typically have a link for it. And I need to go into Streamlabs and fix that link. That link's horrible. Actually, let's do that right now. While I am looking at it, let's go to Streamlabs and into CloudBots and into my commands. Yeah. My voice is hilarious to me right now. You guys could probably still hear some raspiness in it. There we go. There we go. Let's fix that. So now if we do a repo, there we go. Much better link. And you're getting double from me right now because I'm using a multi-stream tool and it's sending my messages to both Twitch and YouTube right now. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I should have even been paying attention. I always start out my stream with the repo command, and I haven't been looking at the repos while doing it. So thank you for bringing that up. That actually helped quite a bit today. But let's take a look at my imports here. Well, these absolutely don't exist there because if we look in our grid store, we moved a lot of stuff out of the store. So let's figure out where they got moved to. So no cell selected. If I just hit control dot, that's coming in from the grid state. And no cell to focus is also coming in from grid state, I think. Yep. So that just leaves the cell value changed. But I think now if I save it, a lot of my errors should have gone away. And yeah, so now we're just on the cell value changed. And here, I believe we changed this to be set cell value from outside. Is it not set cell value? Or cell state was not provided. Cell state, set cell value expects a cell state, doesn't it? Let's see, find, not usages, go to declaration or usages. That is not the one I want. I want the concrete one. I think there's a way to implementations. No. Well, it's in a feature. Probably the fastest way to get there is to find set cell value. So here it is. So it does expect a cell state, so we can't use that one. But we do need to test that, but we'll test it later when we get into actually testing all of that stuff. So I think well, these don't make sense on the overall store, and so one thing we can do really is comment out the cell value change stuff. Because we're going to be testing the features, and there isn't a whole lot in the grid store that we need to test, right? Like the grid store is really just us combining all the features. And so even a lot of the stuff in the grid store right now we don't need. But I think we can get rid of the cell value change stuff because we don't have it anymore, and we'll be testing the feature that gives us self value change, and we'll be testing that function, so we'll know that it works. And that's one of the things that I really want to get into, is doing those tests. So anyway, I think with that, our tests passed there. So the next thing I want to do is just npm exec nx affected. Well, actually, let's do run many because I want to run all the tests. And while that's running, let's go ahead and commit this. And we're just going to say that we fixed tests to run because we didn't really fix any tests to pass. We actually removed tests, and that's never a state I like to be in. Well, that depends. If I'm removing code and I'm removing tests, absolutely, I love that. But if I'm just removing tests, that's not a state I want to be in. So it looks like we've got one last thing, and the app component should create mock of grid component found in declarations. It's marked as standalone and can't be declared in any ng module. Oh, interesting. So let's see here, pnpm exec, and we'll run this one with our watch on it. But the error is in the app components of our Sudoku app. So let's go ahead and close all of these. And let's bring up our app.component tests. So grid components, Can I not mock the grid component anymore? I should be able to. Is it going to see this as needing to run the tests again? No. Oh, yeah, it did. So here's my failing test. Mock of grid component found in the declaration. Oh, the declarations. That's no. It's not in the declarations, it's in the imports. Interesting. I wonder why it doesn't like that. So here's my app component here. And we're importing the grid component and the button host. Oh. No, game one is a function. So this, for whatever reason, right now, WebStorm is struggling with things here. What is this other error up here? Where is that one? Is it in the imports? No. Oh, it might be this, that it doesn't like the spelling on it. Which line is that on? It's here. Is something wrong with my grid component? No, it's a standalone component. But my imports here, oh, it's just saying that they're never used? No, there's the button host, and there's the grid. Well, one way we can test this is if I just do pnpm exec nx serve, we'll see if we can actually serve the application. Ooh, I broke something. Angular compiler. The Angular compiler requires TypeScript that and that, but 572 was found instead. Do I have did I accidentally upgrade to the wrong version of TypeScript? 5.54? Where is it finding 572? .54 is pretty old, though. Is that really my package.json? That was in Striker. We are on 572. if we look at the version compatibility, so yeah, I should be on TypeScript around version 5.6. Somehow I upgraded to version 5.72. So let's just make this 5.60 and we'll give it an up arrow. And we'll see what version of TypeScript that we get from this. So pnpm exec, or this is just pnpm install. We'll do no frozen block file also. I must have grabbed TypeScript one day, just doing an upgrade and didn't realize it. So now if we do a tsc -- version, we should be on. I need to run that through pnpm exec tsc -- version. And that'll tell us what version of type. Still 5.7.2. Did my pnpm install do anything? Go take a look at that. No, it did nothing. Oh no, it did. It kept it at 5.7.2. Because it's a minor. This is the wrong thing. I need the tilde here. That should do it. And yeah, so now it's removing some stuff and adding some stuff in. What version do we get? And it's even been telling me this for a while. I've just been ignoring it. Better, I haven't upgraded in a while. ESLint needs to be greater than 9. ngmox says it only works with 18, but it looks like it's working with 19. But maybe they haven't finished the upgrades yet. But now if we do pnpm exec tsc version, now we should be able to see, yeah, we're on 5.6.3. So now I should be able to do pnpm exec nx serve. And now it should try to build it. And while it's doing that, let's we reverted to supported version of TypeScript. Angular didn't used to do that check. I don't remember when it was added, but before they did that check, I would usually be on a higher version than they actually supported. I've got a deprecation warning. Oh, why am I using SCSS? Did I use SCSS? Maybe I did. I don't remember. Argument of type number array or read only -1 -1 is not assignable to type read only number 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 or undefined. So grid store selected has a problem. So let's fix that up. And this is more of a type declaration thing than anything. So grid components. So we need to find selected in our grid component. What line was that on? It's selected right here. We're not going to be able to jump to this, are we? No. So we'll find it selected. With manage selected. That's probably where it's declared. With manage selected. Inside of here, we have update selected. Is it in my grid? Does my grid have the selected in it? Let's look at my initial state. So that is stored as an object. Is it in with grid computed? Is that where there's selected right here? Oh, look at that. It does return that. So state.selected. So here, I just need to make this a read-only number. So we're going to convert it over to a tuple. And the reason for this, like a number array and a tuple are different, right? We're telling it that there can only ever be 3 numbers here. So if I come here and I add a 5, right, it's going to say, hey, this doesn't match the tuple, right? And it allows us to do some interesting stuff with destructuring also. But because I hadn't declared it that way, we had an issue. So that's one of the issues down. The other one, so here it's saying next to focus, type number is not assignable to type read-only number. So we've got the same issue here. And the reason that a number array is not, so like when you look at this, right, you're like number and number array, these are the same thing, but they're not really, because this is a tuple saying you can only have 2 numbers, right? This is an array that could be as big or as small as it needs to be. And it has to be 2 numbers. The other thing I can't do from here is I can't do, like, I can't also do return that, because it's going to say, no, you have to return 3 numbers, right? So that's an important fix. The other one next to focus is right here. And we can fix this one also with a read-only number, right? So it's now going to return the proper type. And that should fix up my serve. Yeah, it did. We're still getting this issue with SAS. So let's take a look at cell component.scss. I like to clean up these warnings when I encounter them because I don't like the noise, right? If there's a ton of noise, it causes problems. So well, and the problem that it causes is people ignore them, right? So let's take a look at cell component.scss. Cell.component.scss. And it's saying that background color. What line is it saying that that error is on? Line 15. What exactly is wrong with this? Like, I'm just setting the background color to be the highlight color, whatever that winds up being. And, you know, it can be one of 4 colors that it's picked up from a bunch of different places in the code. But I'm not, I'm using CSS variables, right? CSS custom properties. So here's the cell highlight color, here's the cell highlight color, but I'm also overriding it in a bunch of different places. I get that error too. I just bury my head in the sand and hope it will never be hard deprecated. Like, I don't understand what it's trying to say. I'll be honest with you guys, I stopped using SCSS a while ago. The only benefit that SCSS or SAS has over CSS now is really the ability to create functions and iterations, but I don't use that much. Now that we can do nesting and things, I don't find the need to do that very often. So I don't use SCSS that much, and because I don't use it, I'm not sure what the problem is here. And I also think if I go take a look at my my lint, my style lint, or see, oh, I do have standard. I'm curious why this isn't picking it up. I would have figured this would have picked it up. Do I not have style lint running? Like, what if I do this? Interesting. Let's take a look at my style int. So style int is on. So style int has an error on it. What's the error? So if I do that, see, style int should be warning me that I should be using modern color notation. I'm not sure what's causing my style int to not run. So what I'm doing is required, and I can show you in the game when we bring it up. But basically, what we can do is at a row level, we can change the highlight color, right? So my background cell is always highlighted, but based on the highlight color, I can change um, the checkerboard color and the highlight color. And that's what draws the checkerboard is by these different regions changing. And then we can add errors and stuff like that based on the status of the cell. So we're using attributes to do that. So it is necessary because it sets up the background color. And then because of the cascade, if we're in this attribute, we're going to get, a different cell highlight color. And so by us tweaking the CSS properties, we can change that. And then the nth child also has some stuff along with it. But I'm really curious why StyleLint isn't running. Let's just see. What's going on there? So if I do pnpm exec StyleLint and I do that, I'm curious if it runs. It's not a SCSS variable. It is :pseudo element notation. Oh, well, that's generated stuff. But everything else is working. So I'm not sure what's going on there. But Joker, I can show you better in the application. So let's start up the application. So let's go into the browser and let's bring up localhost 4200. And I am going to turn it off for this site. Well, maybe not. I don't know. I don't have a dark mode, and yeah, so the way it's working is we've got this highlight that goes on. So as we're highlighting, we're able to change like the column highlight, the row highlight, the region highlights. And if I come in and I add like a 1 here, uh-oh, that's not working. I can't enter values, so we've broken something here. The navigation works great, but the ability to enter values doesn't. So actually, I'm curious, does my solver work? My solver does not work either. So if I add a problem grid, that doesn't work. So I've definitely broken something. Does create nope, resetting. Okay, so I've definitely broken something. Oh, frustration. So now we've got to figure out what we've broken. I think probably the best way to do it, but you can see that, we're getting green highlights because we changed things in the row. And, we're getting very quotable stream. I'm glad I'm quotable. And, we talked about this a little while ago, but one of the things that rewrites are expensive. And there are lots of reasons for that. So when you're looking at a rewrite, which is what we did, one of the things that you need to take into consideration is the cost of the rewrite, right? And one of the expenses we've got here is that some of our stuff works and it works great, Some of our stuff does not work, and we're in a weird spot. So I think one thing we can do is let's go ahead and we'll kill this. Actually, no, let's bring that back up. One thing we could definitely do. Oh. Oh. So we've got some interesting issues going on here, right? Signal store members cannot be overridden. Trying to override watch cell value changes. So that's in there twice. Allow signal rights flag is deprecated and no longer impacts effect. Rights are always allowed. Let's clean up some of this stuff and see what happens. The allow signal rights. We'll clean that up first. And I don't know what's going on in the SCSS file, so I'm not gonna worry about that. But let's go here. We'll revert this, discard these changes. We'll come back to those tests. Cell component.scss, that's fine, nothing changed. And then grid computed feature, we made changes to types, right? So there are a couple of things in the error. That's not the one that I wanted. This is the one. So there are a couple of things in the errors. Let's clean up the warnings first. But I think the current observers being read only might be our issue. So we'll have to take a look at that. Let's clean up these warnings and just see if the warnings could be causing problems. We'll start there. So I want to yeah, so let's close all of these. And we're just going to search for allow signal rights. And it looks like this is the only place where it exists. And let's take a look at this effect. This effect is in the cell component. And it's on the next to focus. So if we have a next to focus, we pull out the row and the column from the next to focus. And if the row is this, the same row as the cell state we're in, and the column is the same cell state, then we focus it. I want to think through this because I don't think I need an effect here. No, the effect is right. I don't know. I think calling focus on the cell input was what was causing the issue, but I think that that's okay. So I think we've cleaned up that issue. Let's go take a look at our errors. And yeah, that's gone. So now it's this watch cell value changes. Let's go ahead and commit that we removed deprecated. So we removed allow signal rights. It is deprecated and not needed. So there we go. So the next thing to take a look at is close all tabs. And this is one that's interesting to me because it's this watch cell value changes. This is a private method in a couple of features, I think. So watch cell value changes. Is that not what it was called? Watch cell value changes. So we have one here in grid error. We also have one in game one. So this is so we've got it here. But we also have it, and let's filter this down just a little bit, right? So we've declared it here in grid errors, but we also have it in game one. And we also have it in grid error features, right? And this is another interesting piece to, this is something I hadn't thought of before. Very interesting. So what I think I should do is rename this. Come on, can I not rename? That's weird. Anyway, what I want to do is just call this grid error. Watch cell changes, cell value changes. And the reason I'm having to do that, and I didn't think about this when I was originally doing it, but adding these features, we're trying to add the same feature to everything, right? Or the same watch cell value changes. And so having the same functions in features that are used at the same time is going to lead to this issue that we're seeing here. And it shows up as signal store members cannot be overridden. And I see this at work also. And it's an interesting watch cell. So it's an interesting thing to think about, right? Because I was thinking about these things being private, but really they are private kind of. Right? They're private to the store that they're added to, but they aren't isolated from each other. And I need to think through how I would better do this in the future. But that's going to solve another issue that we've got, right? So now we aren't trying to override functions, right? With name collisions, which is something that you have to think about. And they show up as warnings, right? But when you think about it from the perspective of, where is my xCalidraw? Right here. Let's do a new xCalidraw to show you what I'm talking about, right? So let's reset the canvas. And let's say we've got this store, right? Um, we'll just call this our grid store. That is a horrible color. Is that really? Why is that color so bad? Oh, I guess it's just. So this is our grid store, right? Inside of our grid store, let's say we've got 3 features. Um, now you stay green. And let's get a blue feature in here. And let's get you stay blue. We've got an orange feature in here, right? Um, and so here, we've got this function. We'll call it underscore shared function, right? And copy and paste, and you become blue, and then you become orange, right? And then if we think about how this store is put together, right, this becomes a store, but the way the features work is that they're just functions that are run when the store is instantiated. So what we're basically doing is we're just, we're trying to add right 3 shared functions to this store after all of this stuff runs, right? And it becomes tricky, right? Because you've got these features and you want these features to be generic enough that they work. But if we have 3 features like we did that all have the same shared function, what do we do? Are they trying to merge functions? What happens in the case of signal stores like, nah, you can't override this function. Nah, you can't override this function. So we wind up with just the original shared function. And I think this is part of the reason why my stuff wasn't working, was because if we go look at the functions that I changed, so here with the grid errors, we're watching the cell value changed. This shows the errors in the grid, right? It analyzes the grid for errors. So which one was added first, right? So let's go look at the grid store. So with grid errors is the first one added, and then game 1, and then pencil marks was added here. So the only one that was being done was grid errors, but game 1 and pencil marks, they weren't getting their code. And so here, when this changes, we would never check if the game was won. And with pencil marks, the pencil marks wouldn't have updated. So that's a big deal. And I'm clicking on the wrong one. So let's come back here. And now if I type a 1, I'm still getting nothing. But we can see over here that we're getting the key down is touched, but the value is read only. I think what we're running into is the stuff we were reading about earlier. That's stately. In the blog, it was talking about how it's going to throw errors if we try to mutate things, right? So if we take a look at cell component on line 167, components and look at line 167. So we prevent the default, and then we fire an input changed event. Actually, it's being fired from somewhere in here. And let's pop this out into a separate window so we can see what we're looking at. Where's my stack trace on my console? It's on grid feature line 77. Yeah, see, I am mutating the grid, but I can't do that. Oh boy. See, I knew better, but I decided that whatever, dude, I know what I'm doing. Ah. So value is read only. And this is the error that we're going to get. And this, we can look at this. Where was that blog article? And I knew I was going to run into this, and I was excited about it. But so we have to make sure our state is immutable for signals to emit properly, right? And I'm doing exactly this, right? But now we're throwing an error in dev mode, which prevents it from happening. So I'm glad I didn't remove. There was a, let's see, package.json. I can probably take Ramda out of here, but I'm glad I didn't remove mutative. Because we're going to need to use mutative. So if we go back to our code here, and line 184, input value changed. And this is hard to, let's dock it to the bottom. That'll be easier. So if we go back to our console, it's in grid feature 77. So it's on line 77 of grid feature. So let's pull that up. Man, I'm going to have to make a lot of changes. So if we take a look at mutative, um, mutative.js, mutative is a pretty cool library. And it looks like they've got a whole bunch of new stuff in here. That is not the one that I want. This is the one. No. So this is what we want to do. Using mutative, we can use this create function, and it allows us to do mutative change, like changes that look like mutations. But there's a good reason for using this. And one of the cool things about mutative is this is the typical way that you do reducers, right? You do a spread operator or things like that. But mutative is actually faster, and it gets faster, the more operations you do. But mutative outperforms handcrafted reducers. And it goes into a bunch of reasons why. But it gets even crazier on arrays, which is what we're working with. And then it goes to compare itself to Immer and things like that, right? But really, we want to use this create function, and that's going to help us. So here, on line 77, what we can do is we can say that, well, for right now, let's just say const mutated or changed, right? Equals, and then we can do create from mutative. We're going to use grid here. And if I try to import create, where's it going to grab it from? It's going to grab it from mutative. And now we can give it a function, and the function just takes in a draft object. And if we change that draft object, then those changes will be applied. So now we can just move this stuff up into here. And it's no longer grid, now it's draft, right? And this is draft. And then here we can just return changed, right? But we can really just inline this now. So yep, refactor this to inline it. And so that change by itself will solve the issue that we would have to do with all the spread operators. And I wasn't even really sure how I would want to do that. But mutative just gives us this create function. And so now if we go back to our application and go back to our console, and now if I type a 1, now we get a 1 and a 2, 3, if I put it right. But we've still got some issues because it's not doing the error highlighting and stuff like that. So we've probably got some other issues that are going on, and we can definitely see them here, right? So let's go ahead and clear our console. And let's just put a 1 in here and a 1 in here. And we can see that we're getting so cell updated has right, it's saying current observers is read only. Oh, that one's frustrating. How do we work through this one? This one might be where we use props. So we're in grid feature on line 18. So still here, but we're on line 18. So because this is read only, it doesn't, so where with state, initial state, so we cheated and we did last cell updated here. But we don't want that. We definitely cheated here. Let's instead make last cell updated a row and number, right? And is that how we want to do this? Like, I don't want to put this on state. Parrot Top's worst apprentice. Mutating the grid sounds like something a tech bro would say if they buy. Yeah, I'm definitely a tech bro. I don't think this is the right way to do this. So now my grid feature is broken, right? Because last cell updated doesn't make sense. But what I can do is I can say, hey, after with state, I can just say with props, right? And state, and that. I think that'll work, right? So here's my props. And you know what? I should go take a look at this before just muddling my way through it. That is not the one I want. So here, so yeah, you just pass in state. So with props, I can then just go here and I can say last cell updated. And I can just do a new subject. And I want it to be a number. Boom. And I'm not using state, so we don't need it. That works. And now it doesn't like. So now it's a prop just on there, and now it's just an observable. So I should be able to just call next on it. And I'm working on removing the term just. Game one feature line 50. So my game one feature doesn't have last cell updated. So let's go take a look at my game one feature. Line 50. And yeah, now it's a prop. And I need to tell it that it's a prop. So I believe I can just go here and say props. And I can say last cell updated is a subject number number. And now it knows about last cell updated because I pulled it off of the state. But now it can watch it too. So let's go take a look at grid errors. Also needs to know about it. So let's go into grid errors and make the same change. So we need to tell it about my props. I have a last cell updated signal that is a subject, and it is number. Boom. And so now it's no longer a function. So that should fix that. And now if I go back, pencil marks also has it. And so in pencil marks, let's take this off and go up to the top. And I already have props. Cool. Now I can say last cell updated is a subject number. Boom. And that should all compile. And there we go. So now we can go back to our console. And so now if I type a 1 here and a 1 here and a 2 and a 2 and a 3 and a 3, so our errors are not working, but our inputs are. Oh, look at that. So let's filter this out and let's just add another 3 here. What was the error? Let's just try refreshing. 1 and 1, 2 and 2, 3 and 3. So something's broken with that. I already have props. Most inherently gifted. Nice. Oh, wait, there they are. Why? So valid is read only. And we've got an undefined cell. So first thing to do is go take a look at grid errors feature on line 45. And yep, we do have a problem. So grid errors feature on line 45. Again, grid and has error. So one of the cool things we can do, which is hilarious, is we can say, hey, const changed grid equals create, and we need to import that mutative, and we're gonna be mutating grid, and we're gonna use a draft, right? And then we can just take this entire for loop, and this is why I like mutative, because it allows me to write code that I understand. And now I can just say, hey, grid is now changed grid. And I don't know what it's complaining about here. Oh yeah, and I need to change all of these to be draft. So these become draft. Boom. And the underline is cognitive complexity. We could probably come back and look at that. It's just saying that we've pushed this into a high complexity. And I don't like that it's underlining it like that, but whatever, right? So one, there we go. So now we're getting the errors here. So if I add a 1 here, but a 2 and then a 3, right? So our errors are there. But we also have another thing that it's complaining about. So let's reset and do a 1 there, and it's already saying that rotated cell column is undefined. So here, we're going to need to take a look at this. So grid computed. So we're going to have to take a look at that one. What time is it? Oh, I need to end, but grid computed feature. And where is it saying it was? Line 31, column 12. So rotated grid. It's my reducer. So I'm trying to create a sparse array here, and I'm curious what happens. So let's just do, const sparse equals this, right? And then if I do sparse 2, 3, so that doesn't work, equals, 5. Yeah, so we've got a problem here. What if I declare const sparse equals at that? No, that doesn't work. Is it a nested array? Delete sparse. Const sparse equals that. Nope. Const. Let's not do const. Let's do let sparse 2 equal that. And then sparse 2, 2, 5. Still saying sparse 2 is undefined. So it's time to figure out how to do a sparse multi-dimensional array. JS. Let's take a look at MDN. Length and numerical values. I haven't used sparse. I've used sparse multi-dimensional arrays before, but generic array methods, normalization, array-like objects, static, instance. Now let's just search for sparse in here. Sparse arrays, 5 empty items. Multi-dimensional arrays can be nested, meaning that an array contains another array. Give me just a second. Somebody's at the door. I believe I'm the only one here. I'll be right. All right. We have a great neighborhood. Somebody just decided to drop off just a pair of socks. But I think what I have to do is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I think that will work. Let's give it a shot. But I don't think I could do a sparse multi-dimensional array. into a sparse array of arrays. That's what I'm trying to do, but eh. I could actually, instead of doing that, what I could do is I could just say if not rotated grid cell dot column, then I can just do rotated grid cell dot column equals an empty array. And so now I've got a sparse multidimensional array because I'm only adding a sparse array where I need them. And so it will remain sparse so that I'm not, I don't know how important that is, but that should solve our problem. And I should have thought of that. So now if we refresh and I go here and I go 1 and 1, 2, 2, boom. We do have an error here telling us that 0 is read only in pencil marks. Grid row 0 dot row equals row. So it looks like pencil marks line 34. We need to make some more fixes. Let's go back to our pencil marks. Line 34. And this is probably going to trip up a bunch of people. But I actually think it's a good change. So const changed grid equals create, and we'll bring that in. And then we're going to mutate grid, and we're going to use draft. And so here we can move this in, and we're going to rename this to draft. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. This just needs to be draft. Boom, and patch state with grid having changed grid now. Right. I'm gonna have to think through how I would want to do this to be easier to read, but for now it should be good enough. So now if I go boom, column values to hide is read only. Oh man. Oh yeah, it's not updating my pencil marks. What line was that again? Line 46. Line 46. So again, this one is actually a little bit insidious. What line was that again? Whose line is it anyway? That's old school, man. This one's a little bit insidious because I'm actually mutating cells inside of the grid, but I'm not patching the state. So my changed grid equals create, and we're going to mutate the grid with a draft function. And so I was actually relying on mutation here to work. And that's not good. So we want to patch state, state, and we want to patch it with grid, changed grid. So there's already a bug there. I think I'm probably going to have to do a create function for the cell also. But let's see. So now if I do that, column values to hide is read only on line 48. Yep. Const changed cell equals create. And we're going to change the cell and cell draft. And this becomes cell draft. And then this becomes cell draft. Nope, this becomes changed cell. So there we go. So that one was a little bit insidious and could have led to some fun, difficult to track down. Can't access lexical declaration changed grid before initialization. On line 55, what did I do wrong? Changed grid. But I'm not accessing it before declaration. Oh, I am. Am I? I am. That should be outside of that. So now my columns are losing the cell values to hide, but my rows aren't. And because my columns are broken, my rows or my columns stop working after I make the first change. So region values to hide on line 62. Region values to hide. So I need const changed grid equals create grid draft. So there we go. And then inside of here, const changed cell equals create cell cell draft. So this becomes cell draft. And this becomes draft. And after this, we then patch state. Oh, this needs to be changed cell also. Then we patch our state with our grid with the changed grid. So that should fix up my region. So now if I type 1 here, I did it again. Oh yeah, I did. You don't go in there. So now if I type a 1, can't access changed grid before initialization. Man, I am good at that error, like really good at it. I should go pro. So now we can see that all the 1s are disappearing. They aren't disappearing across the row. But my 2s disappeared there and there. My 3s did. But why isn't it complaining across the row? Like if I do a 4 here. There should definitely be something with rows. Set region pencil marks, set column pencil marks, set row pencil marks. Are we not calling set row pencil marks? No, we're calling it right here. Why are my row pencil marks not working? That's fun. All the 1s are disappearing. Bad to hit the binary factory. Definitely that. That is so weird. Like, what is going on here? So set row pencil marks. State.set row pencil marks. Console.log. Set row pencil marks. And we'll just do row here and just see what we get. We are getting the row. It's an array of 9 items. Row 0, column 0. So they're all row 0, column 1 through 8. My regions are all set. So, let's see what we get here if we look at cell values to hide. So we are getting an array with 1 in it. 1 and 2. Yeah, so it is building up that array. That array is definitely there. Oh, wait, no, that works, right? Row 0. Draft. And we're grabbing row 0 does that. So my row is coming out as row values to hide has nothing in it. So that's my problem. Oh, this has to return cell state that. It's not doing anything. It was going through it and mapping everything, but it wasn't changed row equals that. And here we can say, hey, we want our changed row. And here we want our changed row. Actually, I don't need to log that anymore. I think that tracks it down. So now, yeah. There we go. So now if I put a 1 there, I get an error, 2 there. Yep. So now we've got errors. Perfect. If I reset the grid, it resets. If I do a problem grid, that's there. If I reset that and create a winning grid, congratulations, you won shows up. Reset that. We do a problem grid. If I solve a cell, yeah, we're in a stuck state where it can't solve. Great. So if we just go through, can it solve the entire game and recognize that we won? We're in a bad state here. It's not backtracking on the bad states. So 1, 2, 3. This can't be a 4 because we've already got a 4 there. So it's not backtracking. So we'll work on that next time. But we're in a much better place than we were. Would a console it probably would. You're probably right on that one, Michael. That a console.table would be a good way to show this. But I think I'm going to call it here. Yeah, I went over just a little bit, but I don't feel bad. Merry Christmas. If you guys celebrate. If you don't, Merry Christmas anyway. But yeah. We need to work on a dark theme and stuff. Thank you for that, Michael. I have what is Sunday? Is Sunday into the next year? So I will stream Sunday, for sure. And then I'm gonna stream Monday also. So Sunday and Monday. I won't stream Thursday. I might stream Thursday. It's the day after Christmas. For some reason, I was thinking it was Christmas. And yeah, I'll probably stream Thursday also. So we've got a couple more streams. So um, I want to solve this problem because once this problem's solved, our game works again, right? Um, and then um, this exercise is kind of worth it, right? That's a horrible way to put it. This exercise is kind of worth it. No, the exercise is worth it. Um, it's been worth it. I love wave function collapse. It's such an amazing algorithm. Um, but the ability to unwind is the problem. It doesn't know how to unwind the state. And because of that, if it gets into this problem grid, it can't figure out what to do, right? When I hit solve one cell, it should be, oh, can we get it into a problem? Maybe not. Is it going to solve it? That's the problem about wave function collapse is this problem grid is designed to try and force it into a problem, but if it picks the right randomness, there we go. Now we're in, so here we can see that it can solve it, but it needs to be able to walk backwards, and I don't know what's going on. So you guys have a good evening. I always have trouble putting things down when I'm in the middle, like, oh, I can solve this, but I need to stop. You guys have a great rest of your evening. If you guys celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. If you guys celebrate Kwanzaa, have a great Kwanzaa. I don't remember. Is Ramadan going on now? I don't remember. I know that Diwali is over, but whatever holidays you guys are celebrating, if you guys celebrate Festivus, happy Festivus, right? Whatever you guys are celebrating, have a great, next couple of days. I'll be back on Thursday evening, and we'll talk some more. So thanks, you guys.